I legitimately wonder whether these women are even smart enough to realize how dumb they sound. Last night, you probably didn't pay attention. I didn't watch it, but they had the NBA draft lottery. You know, the worst teams get the best picks. It really does feel to me, and I think we need to start to get this idea circulating more, that the Biden administration is trying to tank for the number one pick because it feels like they're trying to lose.
It's like
in everything.
It's like the plot of Major League, the movie, which is a great movie, and
great
pick
movie.
the worst team possible so you can relocate to Miami. Which, by the way, not the worst plan I've ever heard. I'm not gonna lie.
Would have been actually, not a bad move.
Nice.
Now they're not even the Cleveland Indians, by the way. They're the Cleveland Guardians because the word Indians is offensive.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So there seems to be a clear effort underway from the Democrat Party, and it's a long-standing effort to control speech. That's something we'll be talking about more here, to either police speech or to ban it. They're quite open about they want more internet monitoring of extremist content. So interesting, by the way, Clay, because I come from a counterterrorism analysis background from within the government, and I remember Democrats were always the ones who were saying, hold on a second, we don't want to stigmatize anybody by having certain chat rooms monitored or certain, they were always... It
is wild to think about how much the Democrat Party has changed when it comes to issues of speech.
But think about the reversal. I mean, even in the era of Al-Qaeda and then ISIS, when jihadist plots were a relatively regular phenomenon, unfortunately, in America and the West, mass casualty terror plots. I had to work against some of those plots specifically, but there was always this concern about the different guidelines about where you could put, in the case of law enforcement, an undercover operative and what they could report on and it was always the Democrats who were saying, how dare you look at this group? How dare you stigmatize this group? Even when sometimes it was a bunch of guys sitting around saying, let's get some Stinger missiles and shoot them at planes. I mean, they were always taking a very, don't surveil position, right? They were always the ones that were holding back on the state apparatus of that. Now they want to expand surveillance as if that would stop this obvious psychopath. I mean, psychopathy is a real thing, and it's a real medical diagnosis. People can get this kid was clearly psychopathic, and it just feels more and more, Clay, like we can't even have a discussion about fundamental agreement areas in America. If we now say to Democrats, hey, we can agree that free speech is a foundational principle, and that includes speech that offends you, and it actually does even include hate speech, they will say no. They will say that's not true. Free speech does not, government protected free speech does not include things that are hateful. And I just thought this was so interesting. It's like we're living in an alternative universe. This was on The View, which is, I don't even have a clever thing to say about it other than I think it's the dumbest show on TV. Here, Clay, react to this one. This is Sonny Hostin telling everybody, the Republicans are super extreme. Democrats, we're like so moderate.
They are playing to the base. I mean, if you look at all the studies, the Republican Party has moved further to the right than Democrats have to the left. There's a Pew Research Center analysis that finds that on average, Democrats and Republicans are farther apart ideologically today than at any time in the past 50 years. And that ideological divide breaks down to the Republican Party being an extremist party, and the Democratic Party actually, as you just mentioned, Sarah, moving more to the center.
But isn't the problem the primaries? Because you can't get through these primaries unless you are extreme.
I legitimately wonder whether these women are even smart enough to realize how dumb they sound. And I can speak to this pretty straightforward. I know, Buck, Elon Musk shared the meme where he showed himself and where he stood on the political, spectrum in 2008. And then it shows the left wing of the Democratic Party basically running out of control. And he's now moved to the right side of the political equation. And I saw yesterday or the day before where Elon Musk said he was going to vote for a Republican for president for the first time ever in 2024, I think he basically said. Or maybe it was vote for Republicans in 2022. I know exactly what that feels like. because that's me. We've talked about this before. You, when you were 12, you're like, hey, I'm all
like,
in.
I want to dress like William F. Buckley.
Yeah. You were, which is a credit to you because you're growing up in Manhattan, of all places, where you're less comfortable probably as a conservative almost in the entire country. I grew up in Tennessee, where certainly it's been a red state, although it's interesting to think about using my state as a proxy. Buck, people forget Bill Clinton won Tennessee in 1992 and in 1996. I mean, he won Arkansas. He won Georgia. He won a lot of southern states that he would have 0% chance of winning. And by the way, wasn't
Al Gore? Tennessee was Al Gore's state.
Yeah, right. And he obviously Gore was elected multiple times, but my state is kind of a rough approximation for how I have evolved politically, because Tennessee has become a Republican state. Bill Clinton 1992 and certainly Bill Clinton 1996 would be a Republican platform.